These aren't the best of times for Nigeria. The country is barely managing to keep its economy running, and to make matters worse, a recession is looming. A sustained drop in global oil prices and a significant drop in the country's oil production as a result of militancy in the Niger Delta region have seen Nigeria's revenue slashed by nearly half. Inflation is now at a 10-year high of 16.5%, and the Naira has hit a record low against major currencies around the world.
We did expect the low oil price, but we did not expect the level of disruption that we got in the Niger Delta, such that oil production went down and we're not likely to achieve the 2.2 million barrels a day, because it went down at one point to a little over about 1.3.
The fall in oil price had a severe impact on the Nigerian economy. The impact led to currency crisis, which has crippled many of the country's import-dependent manufacturing businesses. As a result of that, we have had supply distortions across the economy.
The government is hoping to spend its way out of the current situation. It has earmarked around $30 billion this year. 30% of that has been set aside for capital projects to rejuvenate the economy. But again, revenue remains a challenge.
We need to borrow because we cannot wait for the oil price to recover. We have to borrow to invest in these large infrastructure projects that are needed to unlock the competitiveness in our economy and create jobs for our people.
What the government needs to do in this time is to probably leverage on the international capital markets, borrow funds, and spend in the economy. That is the way we get out of the recession, no other way.
Nigeria has already started borrowing domestically and has kick-started the international process as well. It plans to borrow at least $10 billion to make up for the budget shortfall. The country is also hoping to reduce its food import bill, which is in the region of $20 billion annually.
70% of what we spend is on imported products. We are not productive. We don't produce anything. It is cheaper to bring in tomato paste from China than to move tomato paste from Kano to Lagos. We have to correct that.
And it's driving an aggressive diversification policy framework with a huge focus on agriculture.
The infrastructure is the problem. If rail was working, we could compete. If our road network was properly funded, we could compete. If power was there so that we had storage, we can compete. So those structural adjustments are fundamental. They're not quick. There is no quick solution to our problems.
The government faces a daunting task. It's recognized and acknowledged the problems and even come up with solutions. It's even started implementing some of this. All it's asking from Nigerians is patience. Deji Badmos, CCTV, Lagos, Nigeria.
Well, let's get more on this. We're joined by Eze Onyekpere. He is from the Center for Social Justice, and he joins us in Abuja. Mr. Eze, welcome to the show. Now, of course, as we heard there, the situation in the Niger Delta is obviously worsening. We're hearing about attacks intensifying and now the emergence of new militant groups. Now, is the government losing this battle?
Well, thank you very much. I can't exactly say whether the government is losing the battle, but I know the Nigerian economy is bleeding. We have it almost as a double whammy. We are not meeting up the production quota, and the price of crude oil has also collapsed. So I think the important thing is that we must find a way back to the status quo. The status quo before the new administration came in is essentially that we are producing normally and selling the crude oil, even though the prices had fallen. So I don't think it's rocket science for us to get back to that status quo. Those who did the negotiation for the Niger Delta peace process during the time of the late Yar'Adua and those who sustained it during the Jonathan administration are still alive. And we can use their strategies and what they did to be able to get ourselves back to a normal position, because we can't be losing at both ends in terms of the production quota and also the price that has collapsed, which we have no control over.
Now, give us some insight into why you think the situation is as dire as it is right now? What's happening with the negotiations? Why are they falling apart? And certainly, is there any more information on some of these new groups that are coming up, including the Delta Greenland Justice Mandate? So far, what really is stalling negotiations compared to, let's say, Jonathan Goodluck's time in office?
Well, I think, to be honest, I will blame the government of the day for what happened. You recall that the president Buhari came in with so much goodwill, but he went to the foreign media to talk about those who gave him 95% of the vote and those who gave him only 5%, and that he's not going to treat them equally. And before anybody could say anything, the young men and women who were in school under the amnesty program in universities across the world, the government reneged from paying their allocation, allowances and school fees. And before you know it, those who were enjoying some stipends under the amnesty program, they were stopped. So he just created the impression that he didn't want to, the new president did not want to continue what was being done in the old administration. So that was the foundation that led to this crisis. And I think it's a question of rebuilding confidence, renewing that confidence to say, well, government is a continuity. We want to continue what has been going on before in terms of whatever commitment that has been made in terms of stipends that should be payable to these people, to continue it. And then you can calm down the boys. There are still very good go-betweens that the government can use to calm down the tension in the Niger Delta. I believe if there's utmost good faith, particularly on the side of government, and these young men and women don't feel challenged that if they come out, that they will be arrested or detained or shot, I think these problems can be solved in the next couple of weeks. I don't think it is beyond human solution.
Right. Well, let's talk about the impact it is having on Nigeria's economy and of course, the oil sector. We know this week Royal Dutch Shell just declared a force majeure on gas supplies because of what is believed to be possibly an attack on one of its pipelines. How is this all impacting the oil and gas sector, oil and gas companies in the region?
Well, very well. Beyond oil and gas companies, this has had a huge negative impact on the Nigerian economy. You will recall that crude oil and gas is responsible for close to 80 to 90% of our foreign exchange earnings. And those foreign exchange earnings are direly needed by companies that are not even in the oil sector to be able to import machinery, you know, we're import dependent, to be able to import raw materials and spare parts, and even to be able to get in some very high level technical staff. And if that foreign exchange is not available, the corporate profits that are being expected in non-oil revenue by government will also be impacted upon, because taxation, corporate profits are the basis upon which you do companies' income tax. And as well, it is also impacting on states that are not able again to pay salaries. And if states are not able to pay salaries, workers are being retrenched, it means that the disposable income of the average Nigerian will also be reduced. And this will also impact on the volume of the consumer tax, that's the value-added tax that government can get. So it has an all-round implication for the economy, as well as even electricity generation, because most of our electricity generating plants are fired by gas. And so if gas production is also cut out and the distribution pipelines are vandalized, so it has also weighed down on the sheer megawatts of electricity that's available to Nigerians to be able to power their industries, their homes, their offices, their businesses, and every other thing that we are doing. So it has a very huge impact, and the government needs to sit down and address it squarely with the best of intentions.
Well, many thanks, Mr. Onyekbere, for giving us those insights. Of course, he's joining us from the Center for Social Justice.